Today I am joined by friend of the podcast, Sham Mohile, host of the Gods and The Goose podcast. We're going to answer all the questions that you guys sent in. But first, I'm going to give him a little bit of a chance to talk about the recent Rookie of the Year results. Just please, for the sake of all things that matter, just don't bombard my comments if you're not a Cage fan. Just please, for the love of God, give me a break. Stay tuned for today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Johnson with 1 second to go.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, or if you're one of the 50% of people who are currently watching this on YouTube who are not subscribed, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button over at the Locked On Pistons YouTube channel. We're on our road to 3,000 subscribers, continuing to show Locked On that we're the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. So again, head over to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. I'd really appreciate it. And per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. Every single day, same guy. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. Again, follow me over there. I'd really appreciate that as well. So today we are going to be joined by friend of the podcast, Sham. He is the host of the Gods and The Goose podcast. Podcast is very, very funny, even though they took a long hiatus for about 2 years or so. But it's very funny podcast. Sham is the guy that got me into all of this. He found me over, I think it's been almost 5 years now, I think. He brought me over to Pistons Empowered, got me started with everything, and he's the one who really groomed me for all this. So I really appreciate him. He's become a real good friend of mine. So thank you for coming on, Sham. I really appreciate it, man.
Of course, yeah, anytime. And yeah, thanks for asking me how I'm doing. I'm doing well today. Just to give everybody history, you know, I was the editor at Piston Power way back in the day, and found Koo and lurking in my comments and actually making some good points, but I was like, who the heck is this guy? And then here we are 5 years later, and he's hosting Locked On Pistons. Amazing.
It's an incredible story. It's an incredible story. Incredible underdog story right there.
Underdog story, yeah. He's always got to remember his roots.
Yeah, I do. That's why you're on the podcast, man.
That's right.
All right, so I got to give you a chance. Last podcast, we talked about the Rookie of the Year race in the first segment, and literally, guys, there is over 400 comments on this last video by Raptors fans destroying and just bombarding this entire, taking over the podcast, really. It's just taking over. So I don't want to take too much time to talk about it, because I really would rather not have to deal with them again. But I want to give Sham a chance to talk about it and give his thoughts on it, because we haven't heard his thoughts, obviously. And it really just happened. It happened over the weekend that we heard the official results. So, Sham, just what's your quick thoughts before we get into the mailbag? What's your quick thoughts on not only Cade Cunningham not winning Rookie of the Year, but it being Scottie Barnes of the Toronto Raptors?
First of all, I mean, let's just acknowledge that it was a 3-person race. It wasn't a 4-person, wasn't a 5-person, wasn't 6-person. I know a lot of Magic fans, Thunder fans, they think, oh, well, why didn't Franz Wagner get in here? Why didn't Giddey get in here? But from the beginning of the season, it was a 3-person race. And us being Detroit fans and, analysts and whatever, we obviously have to say, Cade is the guy. He was the guy. And I know now it doesn't really matter in the MVP talks, but it matters for some reason in Rookie of the Year talks. But team success, I guess, matters. And the Raptors and the Cavs are two playoff teams, or at least almost playoff teams. And I have to give credit where credit is due. Defense does matter. Cade Cunningham was a good defender, but Scottie Barnes was also a good defender, and that team really relied on him in key moments. And here we are, Fraudy Barnes, Rookie of the Year. But honestly, he joins elite company. Malcolm Brogdon, Michael Carter Williams. I mean, he's on the right path.
Fair enough, man.
If you have complaints about my analysis, you can direct them to at Kuka Hill.
So you can never, if you give Sham any time to talk, he's definitely going to come up with some trolls. So he's definitely the originator of trolls. So gotta give him credit there with the what was it, Fraudy Barnes is what you said?
Fraudy Barnes, yeah.
Fair enough. So I've already given my thoughts about this in the last podcast and a few times, but again, like I said, I've been just so bombarded by Raptors fans. I literally could not care less. I don't even care anymore. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I really just rather not deal with them ever again. So,
well, it seems like they care more about, Scotty Barnes' Rookie of the Year candidacy than they do about their actual team in the playoffs and how they're not looking so good. But that's another story.
It's what it is, man. Can't help
Is
it.
what it is, yeah.
Whatever they choose to do.
Yep.
All right. So let's go ahead and get into the mailbag. So I wanted to do a mailbag episode with Sham because obviously he's a troll, the troll of the highest order. So he'll find a way to make all of these fun. And also, I let you guys send in some fun questions because Sham is definitely, if you listen to his Two Gods and the Goose podcast, they mention the Pistons every now and then, but he's big into the pop culture kind of thing, the food opinions, all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to give a chance for you guys to send those in, and we can have some fun at the end of the podcast. But first few segments, we're going to talk about the Pistons, obviously. So let's get into what will be the first question of the podcast. This one is from Nick Willis. He asked on Twitter, he says, would Sadiq be better suited as our sixth man to get the ball in his hands more, a.k.a. Ginobili, Harrow, etc.? Sham, what do you think about that possibly being Saddiq Bey's outcome?
Well, I like if the roster as constructed, if you're telling me that the roster as constructed would be better off with Saddiq Bey off the bench, I'd say you're crazy. But if there were better options of the 3 and 4 that the Pistons ended up getting somehow, some way, then yeah, I could potentially see it. But Saddiq Bey is really good off ball, really good, catch and shoot. He's the kind of guy actually that doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective. And that's the kind of guy that you want in your starting lineup. If you're looking at a 6 man, you want that guy to be ball dominant, score at will, get others involved. And Saddiq Bey can do that, but he's really better suited playing next to guys like Cade and, guys who have the talent and the ability to get him involved as well as get others involved.
No, yeah, I completely agree with that. So I don't think it would be like the best case for Sadiq. I honestly don't think Sadiq is a 6 man because of the reasons you laid out. If you think about like the best 6 mans, they're all guys who can operate the ball in their hands. They're great ball handling, great creating their own shot. That's like what they do. They come in, score the ball. They're not coming in to, play defense or anything. Like most of the guys that you see play 6 man, Jamal Crawford, Lou Williams, Tyler Hero, those are guys who are exceptional creating their own shot, and that's what they come in to do. I don't think that's what like Saddiq Bey's big thing is to do. He comes in, he's able to play off ball, he's able to provide spacing. He's supposed to be able to switch across positions 3 to 4. And obviously he's gotten better with the ball in his hands. He can get to the rim a little bit more. He's getting better at drawing fouls, etc. We talked about that all year. But it's not like that, that you want that to be his primary usage. So I don't think he really is the type of player that would fit as a 6 man. I don't think the Pistons would want him as a 6 man either. So I don't know if I see that in his future, Nick. So there you go. Let's answer another one, and then we'll go to the ad break and try to get more in after that. So this one is from Ty on Twitter. He says, does an Ayton signing DeAndre Ayton become more of a possibility if the Phoenix Suns are outed in the first round? Sham, what do you think about that?
Well, I'm of the opinion that regardless of how the Phoenix season ends, you throw DeAndre Ayton in the bag, right? And then you make Phoenix decide whether they want to match it or not. I would be willing to bet that there are other teams in like around the league that would be willing to would be willing to have his services, would love to have his services, can afford his services. But I think his most value really is on the Phoenix Suns, and I think the Phoenix Suns will try their best to re-sign him, because if you take him away from the Phoenix Suns, who are a contending team, who is going to replace him? Who's going to replace that kind of production and defense? I just don't know if there's an answer, and because of that reason, I think he ends up staying as a Sun.
Yeah, I've said this multiple times in the podcast. I really don't see DeAndre Ayton leaving the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns have a great thing going on over there, even if they don't win the championship this year. They have like a great core, a great leadership from CP3. They have a great team, and that's what they've been looking for a while. DeAndre Ayton, while he hasn't developed into being better than Luke or anything, he's developed into a really good damn player. So I highly doubt that they're going to let him go. I know people point to them not signing him before the year, but I think they're just playing hardball. They're going to let him see what he gets on the open market with the restricted free agency, and whatever a team offers him, I think they'll just match it if they don't come to an agreement beforehand. So I really don't think he's leaving anywhere. So I don't think whether they lose in the first round will change that, though. So that's where I stand with that.
Now I'm going to bring something else up too. Like, so you think about the top tier centers in the league. Is DeAndre Ayton one of those people that deserves a max contract? Like think about Jokic. Think about Embiid. Think about even Karl Anthony Towns. Is DeAndre Ayton yet at that level, or do you expect him to be at that level? Because I don't think he's there necessarily from an offensive standpoint. And he could potentially get there from a defensive standpoint, but I don't think he's there yet either. So you'd be telling the Pistons to take a pretty big chance, although he's probably worth it. But you'd be telling him to take a big chance and a big chunk of their cap space for someone who really can't be that guy just yet.
So actually, I want to save my response for the upcoming segment because that's going to segue us into what the next topic is I want to talk with you about. But make sure you put a pin in that because that is a big point of what I want to bring up when we come back. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. But first, I have to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, PrizePicks. All right, NBA fans, are you looking for a daily fantasy option for the NBA? Then you need to try their award-winning app, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. I love this. I know you will too. It's so easy to use. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over and under on the projections. You can win up to 10 times on any entry. And it's just you versus the projected numbers. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's just that easy. PrizePicks is safe and it offers fast withdrawals. Make sure you go use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. PrizePicks offers any prop you can think of, from points scored to rebounds and even steals. And get this, PrizePicks allows mixed sports entries. So, for example, during the football season, I would take always, the under on Jared Goff's passing yards, and I would take the over on Cade Cunningham's points scored that game. So again, you can do that between NBA and NFL. You can do it between college basketball and college football, between college football and MLB between soccer. Like, you can go across multiple sports with mixed sports entries. It's really that fun. So also for a limited time, PrizePicks has an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all of our users. Users get $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a singular point, but you must use code NBA. That's right. This is an exclusive offer available to Locked On fans. Sign up today and use code NBA, $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a singular point. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. Make sure you guys are heading over to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hitting that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. On the road to 3,000 subscribers. You guys get all of that, yada, yada, yada. I tell you guys this every single day. If you haven't already, I don't know what you're doing, really. But, Sham, I want to talk about what you just brought up in the previous segment. So this is something I've talked about a lot. And don't worry, guys. We'll get back to the mailbag. But I want to get Sham's perspective on this. I've talked about this a lot in the podcast that, is DeAndre Ayton worth the max? Probably not. He's not in that tier with those guys. So he's not worth the max. However, I've said this on the podcast over and over that if the Pistons are going to get one of these high-level free agents, whether it's this quality free agency or even another quality free agency that's maybe a better free agency than this one, no matter what free agent it is, they're going to have to overpay the game to come to Detroit. So the Pistons need to make sure, and this is why I've been so hesitant about Jalen Brunson, is that the Pistons, again, they're going to have to overpay for whoever they go after. So they better make sure that the one guy that they do go out and overpay for, that was the right decision. So I think we both agree that he's probably not worth the max contract. However, the question I really want to pose to you is, I think we all understand that you're going to have to overpay for a guy. Is DeAndre Ayton, do you think he could be the guy that is worth overpaying for? If the Pistons had to pick a guy to overpay for, do you think he would be the guy that would pay off the most? He may never live up to being a max deal, but he'll pay off enough to where it was a good signing for the Pistons. Is DeAndre Ayton that guy, or should they be waiting?
So let me answer that by first saying that, DeAndre Ayton, his value to the team really is a testament to Cade Cunningham, right? Because DeAndre Ayton's not going to be the guy who creates his own shot, creates his own opportunities. He's just not that guy. But Cade Cunningham is. And Cade Cunningham's gravity and his ability to find others makes the people around him better. So with that said, is, you look at DeAndre Ayton today, is he take into account his natural progression into actually a good NBA player, being a first round pick and everything like the first overall pick and everything like that. But if you think that paired with Cade Cunningham, this man is going to be unlocked and be a beast, and the collective success of the team is going to be that much better with his presence on the team, then sure, he's definitely worth it. But if you think, hey, maybe I can get that same kind of production from someone, say like Mitchell Robinson or somebody of a tier lower, maybe 2 tiers lower, then it's maybe not worth it to pay that much money for someone like that, but instead reallocate that money and kind of distribute it across and get good talent across your team, as opposed to paying one singular guy mad money, especially if he can't earn that kind of money on his own. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. I've said over and over on the podcast that I believe that center is the one position where I would rather not overpay for, because you can get that kind of quality stuff from like you said, Mitchell Robinson, or possibly a Nerlens Noel type of build,
Andre
like
Drummond. or an Andre Drummond.
Well,
That's my hot take. I think. Okay, we'll go there.
No, I've mentioned Andre on the podcast a few times as a possible low key signing if you can get him on a good price and he's willing to accept the minimized role that he's taken on over the last few years. I said that he's a low key sign that I would accept. I don't think it would happen though.
Right, and that minimized role is acceptable when you're playing with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Ben Simmons, but it's maybe not so acceptable when you're playing with Kate Cunningham, Killian Hayes, and Saddiq Bey, right?
Yeah, so it just depends on that. But your overall point, I agree with. I probably wouldn't overpay for a center because, again, like I said, I think you can get someone at center that will operate really well with Kate Cunningham, just a lob threat who can protect the rim, doesn't need a lot of touches. Like I said, Nerlens Noel, Mitchell Robinson. There's a bunch of other lob threat type of guys like that.
Yep.
Honestly, at one point during the offseason, we're going to bring up the Rudy Gobert discussion because they might blow it up over there. His contract is massive. I don't think they would do it, but I think it's obviously going to be a topic of discussion in the Pistons community when they eventually start thinking about blowing it up. All right, so let's get into some of these next questions. Which one do I want to pick out? All right, here's one. This one's from Motown Liberal. He says, do you limit or not let K play at all in the Summer League?
No, he's not playing at all in the Summer League. That's silly. Summer League is for guys like Killian Hayes, like guys that need the time and need the extended run to kind of find themselves, find their place in the league, find their role in an offense. Kate Cunningham, after 1 year, has already figured it out. He doesn't need to play Summer League. Good. Do you remember a while back when Andre Drummond was, I think he was like a sophomore, maybe third year in the league, and he played Summer League, and we all were like, why the heck is Andre Drummond playing Summer League? He's way too good for this. Think of that, except 10 times worse, because Kate Cunningham is keeping up with the best of the best in the league. Can you imagine him saucing up like dudes in the Summer League? No. Killian Hayes and Saban Lee are the guys that need Summer League.
Yeah, I completely agree. Kate Cunningham shouldn't go anywhere near Summer League. He doesn't need it. It makes no sense.
What's the point? Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Injury risk. That's it.
Exactly. All right, let's get another one. And this one's from Overthinker. I'm going to summarize your question. He's basically asking, should the Pistons entertain a trade for Donovan Mitchell if the Utah Jazz go to blow it up and he's on the table? Do you think the Pistons should go after him?
Why not? I mean, I'm all about acquiring talent for the right price, but that's the name of the game, right? Is it the right price? If they come asking for like a couple first rounders, Saddiq Bey and Killian Hayes, and then some salary filler, then I'm probably like, no, go take a walk. But if it's a reasonable price, I don't see why not. I think the Pistons could use a guy of his talent. To be honest, the Pistons could just use talent, period. So at any position. So yeah, I mean, sure, why not? But it just matters like what the actual cost would be to get him.
So I'm honestly not sure about this one. I don't know if I would go after him for two reasons. One, his defense is just so bad that I really don't want to. At the off guard position, I kind of like what the Pistons are building with everyone being switchable and trying to have a long, lengthy lineup that can, play passing lanes and no one's a real liability defensively. Like he's terrible at the point of attack at defensively. So, and you're seeing that in the playoffs right now. So that's not enough for me to simply say no, stay away from him. But it definitely is cause for concern for me. And then secondly, with the contract he's going to be getting paid or contract he's being paid, if you trade for him this summer, you're basically saying the Pistons. You're close to being a contender. Like you're ready to do it now. And I don't think they are. At least that's why I think it would be happening. I think they should wait to pull that kind of trade off until they feel like they're completely ready to go for it. I don't think they're ready yet to do that. So I'd probably hesitate from doing that, but that's just where I'm at with it.
But then again, if you keep waiting, when is a guy like Donovan Mitchell going to come available when you are ready, right? He's available right now and he's still young. It's not like you're acting like he's 30 years old. He's still relatively young. So,
fair enough.
I mean, you'd be paying him, but you'd be paying him through his prime. It's
fair enough. It's just, I feel like we have this conversation every year, though, that we say, well, when is this guy going to become available? Like, guys always become available year after year. Situations change. Guys want out. Like, I feel like every year we're having that same discussion, though, about. I feel like 3 years ago, it was, if Bradley Beal, when's Bradley Beal, a guy like him, going to be wanting out? And we've had literally a superstar after superstar after star after star switch teams. So, I understand. I just feel like maybe this offseason isn't the summer to do something like that drastic. If they feel like they can get him for a bargain price, obviously you do it, but I don't think you will. So I think you should probably wait a second to pull a big trade like that off.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I love your idea of like building the framework before you start to really add those pieces in that will take you to the next step.
Yep, I agree. All right, so fair enough. Let's get to the next one, then we'll move on to the next ad break. All right, let's get this fun one in. We'll have one fun one in, and then we'll have the last segment be a ton of the fun ones. So, Sham, you are a DJ, and this question comes from Laz over at Detroit Bad Boys. He wants to know, who are your musical influences?
Oh man, wow.
Don't do that, man. Don't act like,
Oh
man. It's just
wow.
all of them, man.
I
It's
am
just
my own influence. No. Like just in terms of I'm not sure if our listeners will really know, but one of the biggest EDM DJs of the past like 20, 30 years was Avicii, and he actually passed away like 3 years ago now, 4 years ago. And he was really good at blending like both the EDM influences, but also like reaching across the aisle and getting people who were interested in pop and rap music to be interested in his music, and almost served as an introduction to the genre as whole. And I also loved his stage presence. He was a great guy, and I would have loved to gone to one of his shows or meet him in person, but I dropped some of his tracks here and there, some of the guys that have come under him. I'm big fans of, but yeah, he's one of my influences when I'm up there. And when I'm kind of putting sets together, it's all about the emotional journey and the emotional ride. It's a 60-minute set, so can't be playing bangers all the time. You got to build it up, bring it down. And Avicii was really good at doing that.
All right, fair enough. If you guys are into that kind of stuff, make sure you guys go check out Sham on Twitter at ShamShamGod. He puts them out on Twitter every now and then when he does his sets, and he puts out some of his, what is it, a playlist like on SoundCloud or something, or Spotify?
Yeah, it's my literal set that I've recorded and I like post on SoundCloud. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys are into that kind of thing, go check it out. Great stuff. All right, when we come back, we'll answer more of your guys' questions concerning the Pistons. We'll have some fun with some fun questions, like one coming up. What's our favorite holiday? What's your guys' favorite holiday? Let me know in the comment section down below. But first, let me tell you guys a little bit about another one of our sponsors, BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for all your sports betting stats and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news during this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season, now that it's finally back. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action today. And if you head over to BetOnline.net, you'll see it's not just basketball. They have baseball, boxing, football, golf, hockey, horse racing, martial arts, soccer, tennis, all kinds of sports. Literally just about anything you can find. And if you go and look at the odds, which, by the way, the odds makers, they're not looking so sweet right now. You had the Nets before the season, favorites to win it all. They're out of there. Lakers to win it all. They didn't even make the playoffs. The Pelicans, all of a sudden, they're jumping up odds. It's not looking so good. But tonight, we got the Toronto Raptors versus Philadelphia 76ers. They got the over and under at 211 points. I'm going to go ahead and take the under on that at -110. That's the kind of thing you guys can do over at BetOnline. So make sure you guys are constantly going over there, having some fun. Check out their website today or use your mobile device to learn more about their trends in action today. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. Head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. You guys get all that jazz. I'd really appreciate it. All right, Sham, let's go ahead and answer some more questions here. Next one is going to be from Young Vante. He wants to know, do you think Jeremy Grant's trade value was exaggerated during the trade deadline? Do you see the Pistons possibly getting another lottery pick as the main asset in a Jeremy Grant trade?
So yes and no, right? Like, it all depends on who the team is, right? For Portland, that return was, I think, reasonable, right? Like the lottery pick and some salary filler, that seems reasonable, right? But if you're looking to kind of canvas him around the league, then yeah, for sure it was exaggerated, and he's probably not returning the same thing that he got, or that the Pistons would have gotten at the deadline. Now, he's another year older. He's kind of proven that he can't really work that well with a ball dominant guy. But at the end of the day, he's a wing that makes 20-something million, right? It's just a matter of, can you find a spot for him on your team, and is he going to contribute to winning? Like, I bet the Bulls would have loved to make that trade right at the deadline.
Yeah.
And they still may. But because Jeremy Grant is not that guy who's going to make you from a pretender to a contender, but he can take you from a good team to a great team.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think what the Pistons wanted for Jeremy Grant and what people were saying about, oh, he's the most sought after guy, there is going to be a betting war, all that. I think that was shown to be not the case, at least at the trade deadline. I said that I actually give Weaver a pass a little bit with the Portland trade because that pick that they have from the Pelicans now isn't even in the lottery because they lose it now. So now because the Pelicans made the playoffs, obviously. So now they probably wouldn't have even gotten that pick. So I guess it makes sense to not have taken that one because now they wouldn't have even gotten the first rounder they were searching for. So do I think they could possibly get a first round this offseason? Yeah, I think they'll find a way to get one. I think honestly Portland's desperate to get Jeremy because they want to make Dame happy, their boys. They made all this cap space, all this room, so they could try to rework the team around Dame with more of a defensive mindset a little bit instead of just all offense. So I think he still ends up in Portland somehow. I think it's Dame's kind of putting pressure on them to do so. So I would expect him to still end up in Portland somehow with a first round pick. But do I expect them to get like 2 first round picks or what was a crazy rumor like his first year that Boston offered like 3 first round picks or
something crazy.
And I don't even know if that was true though. So.
Right. But I think it's also important, like, and I mentioned this to you, Ku, like in our little, Twitter group. And, the one blessing in disguise about Jeremy not getting traded is that now you have all these playoff teams that potentially underperform and they'll be looking for drastic changes. Like, look at the Nets, for example. The Nets are a game away from being swept in the first round after barely squeaking out of the play-in, right? Like, they could be a team that could be looking for some drastic changes and start to blow it up and think differently. And who's to say if there are other disappointments in the playoffs, they may not be thinking the same. Playoffs really tighten everything up, turn the heat up a little bit. And franchises, as we've seen, make pretty drastic moves based on playoff performances in the past.
Yeah, and that will take us to the next question, literally. This one's from Cade Icewood on Twitter. It says, what does the Hawks-Bulls playoff early exits mean in the Jeremy Grant sweepstakes? So I guess you kind of answered that just now. You think they could be interested, the Hawks and the Bulls now, that they're probably going to be sent home early?
Well, I think they were interested before, but you look at those teams that were on the fringe that are potentially not doing, or sorry, like those quote unquote contenders that are not performing up to snuff. Like, yeah, we already knew Hawks, Portland, Bulls. Those are teams that are already on the outside looking in or on the very edges of the playoffs. But look at a team like Memphis, right? Like Memphis was a 2 seed and now they find themselves tied with Minnesota 2-2. Say they come out of that series with an L. Now they go into the offseason trying to figure out how to make their team better. And when you have a team that's full of young guys that are basically they're banking on internal development to make their team better, who's to say they may not want to speed up the timeline by flipping a few of those guys for Jeremy Grant? Now you have this well-established wing with playoff experience. Anything is possible depending on how the playoffs shake out.
Yeah, I agree. I think I don't think it's just like the Hawks and Bulls, like you said. Like we could see a team that loses maybe in the semifinals do it and not want to take the next step. Maybe even the Eastern Conference Finals. I feel like they need one more to take the next step. So I like I said, I don't think it's just the teams that you mentioned, Cade Icewood over on Twitter, but I think it's literally any team that possibly doesn't meet their expectations, whether that's like I said, conference finals, a championship, the finals berth, something like that could be interested in Jeremy Grant. So that's the one hope if you're a Pistons fan. If you want to have hope that there's still going to be a bidding war of some sort for Jeremy Grant, you could get a lot. That's your one hope right there. And it could happen in the offseason. Who knows?
Or also injuries. Injuries happen in the playoffs, right? And that's an injury that's happening in May, June, right, of this year. If it's a significant injury, look at Kawhi Leonard. It could potentially bleed into next year and then affect your performance in the following year, right? So maybe you look at a guy like Jeremy Grant, who's been relatively healthy, been resting since April, to come in and help kickstart the franchise and start them on a right foot, while they wait for some star or somebody else to get healthy and to make their team really good going into the playoffs next year. Anything is possible.
Yeah, honestly, I'll say this. If you told me that I had to take Portland versus the field of where Jeremy Grant ends up, I definitely would take the field. And honestly, I would say that it's probably likely if you take Portland out of it, we're going to see a team trade for him that we probably didn't even hear about like before the trade deadline or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe one of those teams just come out of nowhere and trade for him. I wouldn't be shocked by that.
And then also when the draft order gets finalized, then we could see potentially some trades and some movers and shakers, because now teams will know exactly what prospects will fall into their range. And maybe Jeremy Grant's a better option than some of them. I don't know. There's lots to consider. There's lots of variables between now and then.
All right, let's get one more serious question involving the Pistons, then we'll have a little bit of fun at the end.
Yeah.
This one's from Steve Cook over on Twitter. He says, most important offseason move: nail the lottery pick, trade Jeremy Grant, or sign a huge free agent. Which one are you picking?
Definitely the first one. If they don't nail this lottery pick, they're essentially going to be set back another year. And honestly, I really don't see them making a big splash in free agency. The only big splash that I could see is them overpaying for a guy like Jalen Brunson or somebody who's good, but probably not the money that he's probably going to get. But yeah, I think if they nail the lottery pick, and I really find it hard to believe that they would fail if they got a top 4 pick or even a top 5 pick. But say they end up with like the 7th pick or something, now there'll be a little bit of a question as to, okay, they have to kind of make some choices based on their fit, based on Cade, based on a lot of things. Whereas like the top 4, you kind of know who those guys are, and you kind of know how they're going to fit.
No, I think I completely agree with you. It's not even close. You have to hit this draft pick, especially if you get like a top pick. You can't miss on one of those guys. If you pick the one guy out of this top 4, that like this top 4, top 5 is supposed to be extremely top heavy. If you pick like the one guy that happens to not be the one that doesn't plan out, that's a massive hit. And this is probably going to be the last time the Pistons have a top pick in the draft. Like this is probably the last time you're going to see them purposely suck. So you have to hit this lottery pick. It's the most important thing this offseason. There's other things that are really important, but the draft pick, 100%, is extremely important. I want to touch on one thing that you just brought up, and then we'll move into these funner questions. Jalen Brunson, we're talking about him like throughout the entire offseason, obviously. He's probably going to be the most talked about like possible addition to the Pistons this offseason on the Locked On Pistons podcast. But it's just a little number I wanted to throw out there since you just brought his name up. Bobby Marks of ESPN, he's like the salary cap guy over there. He tweeted out that this graph, and it shows Jalen Brunson's actual contract versus how he's performed this season, what his actual contract would be valued at. He has Jalen Brunson's making $1.9 million this year. The chart that he came up with says that he is outperforming that contract by $29.7 million. So let's just say that would be absolutely accurate to what he gets. If the Pistons paid this dude $30 million, I would be very unhappy. That's just where I wanted to have it at right there. And if you want to say something real quick, you can, but we can move on to the funner question. I just want to hit that real quick.
Well, I just think that the Pistons are Pistons fans, this whole community, we get excited, right? We have cap space. We see, we have finally, after so many years, since like 2016, since Stan Van Gundy went on a spending spree, we have the first time in a while have cap space to spend. And so we look at the options and we start convincing ourselves that, oh yeah, Jalen Brunson can be the guy, or, DeAndre Ayton, if we throw him the max, he can be the guy. But in reality, we're just doing that because those are the only options really available. If those guys were available and then some more top tier free agents, we wouldn't even be talking about these two guys, right? Same with Miles Bridges. Like we're looking at these B- B rated players and wanting to pay them A+ money. And I just don't think it's worth it. And this is how you set your franchise back. Look at Stan Van Gundy.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you said. So now we can get into some of the fun questions. If we did not answer any of your guys' questions that,
they weren't good enough.
Whether it's on YouTube.
They just weren't good enough. Sorry.
Whether it's on YouTube, if you put it in the reviews down below on Apple Podcast, if you tweeted them at me, I'm sorry that we didn't get to them. Send them in again. Let me know that we missed them, and we'll try to get to them next time we do a Mailbag podcast. But all right, Sam, let's have some fun. We're at how many minutes we have? We're at about 34 minutes. We got a few minutes to spare, real quick.
Okay.
All right. What's your favorite holiday?
Easily.
This question was from. Wait. Oh God, I forgot who answered or asked it. I'm sorry, I don't see who asked it, but I saw the question earlier. Go ahead, answer the question.
Favorite holiday, Drew Holiday. I mean, that dude is so good. I mean, he got a title under his belt. No, I'm kidding. Halloween for sure is my favorite holiday. Halloween, yeah. It's the one day in the year that you can be somebody that you're not, right? Like you can dress up and be just about anybody. And for the listeners here, I'm follicularly challenged. I'm bald, whatever. My Halloween costume for this year is Mr. Clean.
Haven't you done that before?
No, I haven't. I did Pitbull.
Oh yeah, I remember that. All right, so my favorite my favorite holiday is Christmas, and there, gifts and all that stuff. That's probably the regular reasoning for it. My reasoning is simply you get the day off of work. No one works that
Oh
day.
my gosh.
No,
I was about to say,
no.
oh, Koo is so wholesome over here. No.
No, you don't have to work that day. Any other holiday that you get the day off and no one works. Those are my favorite holidays.
That's
You still have
fair.
to work on Halloween. So that doesn't change nothing for me. Any holiday you get the day off, mark me down as the biggest Kuka Hill biggest fan. Let's answer the next one. Where's the other one? Oh, okay. This one's from Abdulio Garcia. He wants to know, Sham, where did you get your Twitter handle from? So Sham's Twitter handle is Sham God. Where did you get it from?
So I was originally gonna do Sham God, like God Sham God, the former basketball player. But actually it's taken. And I've been like and it's from some like weird account. So I've been like scouring and I'm like, okay, as soon as that account disappears, I'm gonna snag that name. But my name is Sham. So I thought, well, it's the name so nice, I'm gonna write it twice, so Sham God.
I'm gonna write it so good. I'm gonna write it twice. Fair enough. All right, and this will be the last one right here. Pineapple pizza or not?
Okay, but you have to give your opinion too. Okay.
I will. Go ahead.
Okay, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Especially that nasty ass like canned pineapple like pizzeria style. It's just nasty. I mean, for anybody who says that they like it, they just love being a contrarian. They just love going against the grain. Oh, I love pineapple on pizza. They don't. No one does. No one likes that pineapple off of the pizza. But then they're like, oh yeah, let me throw it on with a bunch of ingredients that don't match. And then, yeah, now I'm going to like it just because everybody else doesn't.
So I hate pineapples on pizza, but you can't really care about my food opinion because I don't eat. I am such a picky eater and I don't eat nothing. Like I eat the same thing over and over. Like as far as it goes on pizza, the most I put on pizza, pepperoni and sausage. That literally is the only. That's like as far as you go. And I don't even prefer that. I'd prefer just that pepperoni on it. That literally is all. That's all I am. So anything else, whether it's pineapple, what are some other ones like some random vegetables
Like
or stuff like. Yeah,
like
no.
I hate olives on pizza too. Oh my
yeah,
God.
no.
It's like it's just like you have this beautiful tasting pizza and every bite it's bitter.
Fair enough. This no can't
It's
do
just
it.
nasty.
Kuka Hill can't do anything but that.
Yeah.
That not pineapple. Pepperoni. That
Yep.
pepperoni, perfect right there. That's all I need. Right
And if the listeners want to take away anything from this podcast, just know that Kuka Hill said he loves sausage. That's it.
I don't see nothing wrong with Italian sausage on pizza.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
All right, that's gonna do it. Sham, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter and your podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. You like on Twitter, you can find me at ShamGod. Kuka's probably retweeting my stuff all the time. Podcast,
yeah.
Two Gods and a Goose. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. Basically, all the places that you listen to Locked On Pistons. Also, go search Two Gods and a Goose. Hit a like button. I'll rate 5 stars for Locked On Pistons. You should too. Go to my pod, rate 5 stars over there. Yeah. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you. You didn't have to put that 5-star part, but I definitely will encourage that. If you guys haven't, go down there and hit 5 stars for me. I really appreciate that. Right. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. Make sure you guys go make Locked On NBA your second listen of every single day, from the first jump ball of the play-in tournament to the last possession of the finals. Locked On experts take you deep inside the playoffs with insight and analysis affecting all 30 teams. Again, thank you guys for listening today. Make sure you guys go ahead to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Enjoy the playoff games. And until the next one, I'll see you guys later. Peace out, everybody.